Hi my friends, Sam Villa here at the Stylez Studio in Miami, Florida. So excited to be with the Stylez App. That's right, the Stylez App. S-T-Y-L-E-Z. Now here's what I want you to do. Take your phone out, go to your apps, and download the Stylez App. Here's why I'm so happy to be here at the Stylez Studio, because I'm loving their content. Our cultures are very similar. There's so much about education, so much behind the hairdresser. Not only that, but they complement growing your business behind the chair by actually connecting with the consumer also. Make sure you check that app out. I'm excited because I have the beautiful Olga with me here today. And what I want to do is talk about salon scenarios that come in. I just want to give you a profile view of her hair in terms of what you see. Now, this is true in terms of what you see. Look at the fineness of her hair, the density into that area. So what I want to do is put some strength back into this hair. Let's go up and look at the top. And if you take a look at the top, you can just start to see how we really need to put some strength back into this. My inspiration on these bobs that I'm starting to see is Julianne Hough. Take a look at that silhouette in that bob. It's absolutely beautiful. So that's an inspiration in terms of the silhouette. But I think sometimes you have to really personalize to the fabric and the canvas, the client that you have sitting in your chair. So we're going to use that as a sense of inspiration, and let's get started in the back area. Why am I cutting it dry? I'm cutting it dry because I want a soft edge in my bob now. And I really want to be able to see that. So dry cutting is a visual exercise. In the front area, we want to detach that at the moment. Just set it aside for a moment. So watch what I'm going to do. See where it's weak in this area? There's strength here. So let's start in the front area just by eliminating hair that we really don't want to cut yet. And that's this weak area that she has in the front. So we don't want to go after that. We're just going to isolate that and just keep that out for now. And just keep it right there. So to keep it isolated, all I'm going to do is grab a small elastic. And I'm just going to put the elastic just on this. And just so it's kind of just gathers that hair. So you can see I didn't even twist the elastic or anything, just gather the hair. By placing the small elastic there, that guarantees I'm going to isolate that area and not pick it up until I'm done. And then you'll see how I'll start to detail that into the existing length. Let's come over to the opposite side. And you can once again see the transparency there. So let's just isolate that once again and get that out of the way. And once again, just taking the elastic, it's not about isolating this tight, just so it stays separate from where I'm going to be working. I'm going to be starting in the back area. And what I want to do is I want to come through and just start to keep everything just more to the round of the head. I want it to sit to the round of the head, but I'm just going to drop my length off a little bit. Not going to go too extreme on my A-line. Cutting it dry once again so that I can see that visual edge. And what I'm going to do to that visual edge is I'm going to actually scan that. And we'll talk about that when we get to it. Now this left back area, what we want to do, instead of cutting this such a wide area and turning my finger position, what I want to do is just find where the natural transition happens. If we place a box on top of Olga's head, you'll see there's a left corner there. That corner is where I'm going to intentionally blouse the hair up and see and allow it to split on its own. And when you do that, that's telling you where her head wants to change directions. That's where I'm going to position my fingers to actually ensure that I get to the round of the head. Okay, so we're going to isolate this section. Let's see all of these isolated. So there's going to be 4 panels that I'm actually going to place in the back area. What's so important in order to blouse this properly, take the wide teeth of the comb with growth pattern, and then when you hit that parietal ridge, gravity takes over. So now let's take a look and let's see where the box is. Just get an eyeball. I take the comb, place that on that transitional ridge, sometimes referred to as a parietal ridge, and then the back, you can see where they meet, those 2 lines. Let's blouse right here. Look at that. You can just see where it wants to separate on its own as soon as I lift it. Okay, so now we're going to isolate this area. And now if we isolate this area, you're going to see 4 areas. Now let's talk about the why behind this. If I take such a wide area from center back all the way to behind the ear, I'm playing a guessing game and turning my finger. If I put the comb to this and I have Olga look up at the ceiling and I place the comb here. Isn't this interesting? The comb comes off this point and this point. So this is more of a flat area. So the way the comb is positioned is exactly how I'm gonna position my hand. Most people, when cutting a bob, will square it off this way. If I do that and hold my hand square, I'm actually over-directing the outside, left side of the panel, and that's giving me more length underneath. Look at that. You can just start to see where the comb comes off. That's how you position your hand. When we get to this side area, you can see how I'm going to place my hand here. So now take a look at this. If I place it here and here, you can see that's where that corner is. Because the head is round, these 2 points that meet and intersect will actually round themselves out. So let's get started. We're going to start in that right center back. I'm making sure that I've got this even. I will accept that, and this is where we're going to start. When we cut this, I'm going to take her head down. That's going to give me a little bit more room to play with. I'm cutting it dry once again because I'm going to actually scan this, and you'll see what I mean. I want the edge of my bobs to have a little bit more softness to it. That said, I'm going to work with a 6-inch Signature Series swivel. By having a swivel shear, rather than me putting my wrist in this position because I'm going to scan, I'm going to simply swivel, and now look how straight my arm is. So remember, every tool has its reason and its purpose. Just like a butcher understands the process of how a steak knife works, a butter knife. Each tool has its own reason. Now watch. Let's read the hair. It's going to tell me where to cut this bob. Look, as soon as I start to blouse it, I see I should start my bob edge right there. So I visualize that. We come in with a comb. Look at the comb. So I come through, I take that section, and I position it to the comb. Okay? Eliminate the comb. Sometimes when I'm cutting like this, the comb gets in my way. So what I want you to do is hit the pocket of your thumb and index finger and roll it. And this way you can see it's not in your way. Now I'm not going to cut this down to the skin, and the reason I'm not going to cut this down to the skin is because I want this bob to have a soft, pliable edge to it. And by just going in and just doing that, you can see I'm going to get a nice edge to it. It's going to have the balance that I'm looking for, but this edge, as it grows out, is going to be much softer and pliable for her to maneuver. Okay, let's take our next section. Consistency is very important in your sections. So Sam, are you going to layer this out? Well, if you take a look at Julianne Hough's haircut, it's got a little bit of graduation in it. So yes, I am going to layer this out, and Olga has asked for a little bit more volume on the top. Now, what we have to be careful of is we have to be careful of how we layer fine hair, and we'll talk when we get to that on the top. Back to the perimeter edge. I clean with my fine teeth of the comb. I set up my tension with the wide teeth, and now I am ready to cut. And as I said, it does not bother me to have this in my hand because I'm looking for that soft edge. We're just going to continue to work this section down, coming through and scanning. Notice that I'm trying to keep the points as easy as I can, but I'm not deep point cutting this because this is fine hair and it needs that weight to it. Okay, let's come through next section. We're going to continue to work up the rectangle section. My last section on top, I want you to notice how I've deliberately taken my time to scan each section. I'm also aware of what my tension is, so I'm not applying too much tension. So allow the fine teeth of the comb to clean the section. Come back in, use the wide teeth to set up the tension. Look at the comb placed. That's how I'm going to place my hand. And now I'm just going to slide the comb. Look at the comb leading my hand to it. About 1/8 of an inch away from where that guide is. Now I'm coming through with a swivel. Now watch me place the guiding blade of the swivel on my ring blade. And now all I do is just slide across, move across. I scan across that ring finger. And you're probably thinking, Sam, this takes so much time. My friends, it's not about me, it's about this. It's about the fabric and it's about the client. What's best for the fabric and what's best for the client. Okay, now we're going to move to the left of center. Okay, we're going to take a horizontal section. And so that I get a nice guide for this, I'm just going to come back to this, slice that out, and now isolate. And now it kind of gives me an idea of where I'm at and where I need to go. Remember, use the comb where it's at, how it collapses. So in other words, what I'm trying to share with you here, I'm not combing down, turning my hand, and cutting across a straight line box. When we have a natural tendency to do that, you are over-directing this area slightly back. By doing that, that's just going to give you a little corner and added length that you're going to want to come back and cut off. Stay with the shape of the head. Fine teeth to clean. Wide teeth to set up my tension, and watch my finger come in. And look how soft I am with that. Okay, make sure you have your ring finger in there, and that's going to be my resting point for my guiding blade. I believe what's so important is you take a step back and look at the big picture. When we stay too close in, you're looking at a small picture. So let's just take a step back, look at the big picture, and you can start to see how I'm dropping down here. So if I'm close here, I'm not really going to see that. So I need to change just my finger angle just slightly. Okay, so now I'm down with eye level with that. So let's stay here. And you can just start to see where I just extended just my guide slightly. My friends, I'm not going to stand in front of you and say I'm perfect. I will make mistakes, but it's only a mistake if I don't learn from it. If I learn from it, then it's no longer a mistake. Now I'm liking that much better. I'm just going to go ahead and take this one edge that I see here. Okay, now I'm ready to continue. Once I've got that guide, let's go back, drop out what we've cut, and let's come through and take our next horizontal slice. I'm going to continue to work up the section horizontally. Last section within this rectangle. One of the most important things to remember is get this hair in natural fall. Where does it want to go? If some of it wants to overlap to the other side, then that's where it wants to go. Use the wide teeth of the comb. Come back in, nice even tension. Now we're continuing to the side area. This is where I'm just going to start to change my angle just slightly, and it's going to change naturally as it wraps around the head. And you can just start to see how that angle just naturally drops down. The problem here though is this is the area I want to cut. If I took my first slice is such a small slice of that area. So what we encourage you to do is go up above the ear and bring this in so you can marry your entire line in. Okay, now let's turn her head. So here, watch how I'll just place the comb. Okay, so I'm just going to continue that line there all the way through. Last section on the left side. Look at how we're putting the integrity back into this. Okay, now before I do anything in terms of cleaning up or anything, I want to go through and complete my other side. I'm going to show you a cool way how to cross-check this. Before we do that, let's come to the opposite side area here. Let's take a slice. Remember, I'm filling in that whole area rather than just starting down at the nape area. Let's fill that line, that hair in, so we can continue that line through and see the line. Now, before I do that, what I want to do is just tip a guide from one side to the opposite side and see where I'm at here. So I'm going to come to the opposite side. Okay, this is the hair that we are eliminating. Okay, now I'm going to come through and I'm just going to take the hair I have here. Okay, just a piece right in front of her ear. This is going to just come through and it's just going to give me a kind of a dot-to-dot concept of what to cut. So I'm looking here. And what I want to do is take the hair from the opposite side at the same point, and I'm just going to marry it in front and center it. Keep it down low and cut. Now let's take a look. This point will now represent that point to this point. Now her shoulder sometimes can get in the way. So I want you to hold the shoulder and turn her head. Okay, I'm going to hold that position. Now look at that point and that point. And now it's just a matter of connecting those two dots. Look, I use my comb just to see where I'm going. Remember, I'm not changing this line in terms of diagonal deep. I'm just softly changing my finger angle. Notice how I'm taking my time, cutting this with intent and purpose. Then we're going to come back and start to layer it out. I'm going to make it a little bit more comfortable. Just give it a little bit turned back because I've cleared the length. So I feel fine now. Sometimes where I see I start to drop off in my line, place your finger there so you know where to go. You'll know what area needs to be taken care of. Now let's go back through and let's just start to cross-check. Now what do I mean by cross-checking a one-length haircut? Sometimes when you cut a bob, when you see the hair move and she shakes her head, that underneath has little pieces of hair, and sometimes it's cut perfectly, but it's just the underneath. It doesn't swing, it doesn't move. So here's what I'm going to share with you, a good way to take care of that underneath hair. And don't panic now. So you see all that underneath is what I want to take care of. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my comb, I'm going to comb it on a diagonal. I comb it on a diagonal. Now this is the one time I'm going to come in at the skin. And you see where I see that line? See that line? I'm going to eliminate everything off of that line. Just really below that line. Now what that's going to do is I've actually combed this diagonally and over directed, and you might think, God, he's cutting up into his line. No, watch. When I lift her head up, what's happening is, watch, because I combed this over here, I didn't touch the top, but what I did get was that bottom underneath there. See how you don't see that in that area? Now remember, we're going to be layering this out. Let's tilt it this way and watch again. Comb, especially when you get to this front area. You ever see these bobs and they've got that length there? So I'm going to come through. Sam, what? You said you were holding your finger because you wanted to keep it soft, but now you're down on the skin. This is a great way to cross-check that underneath. That's why I'm down on the skin. So let's go right here. Look, so you can start to just see it. Once you just start to take it both ways, you'll know what needs to be taken off. I'm going to warn you, you cannot be afraid to cut it. You're afraid to cut it, then it's still going to be there. Okay, now let's just start to take a look at this side. Okay. I'm gonna just ask her to shake her head, shoulder to shoulder. Okay, and you can just start to see this side now has a much more of a solid underneath to it. Let's take a look at this side. And you can see I need to come in just underneath here and get some of that. All right, so let's go back. Just a great hot tip in terms of cross-checking these one-length haircuts. Watch. See that, all of that underneath? Sam, I don't understand how that works. Well, watch. I'm combing this out of its natural fall, so therefore, the underneath is shorter, it's barely moving. So this line is my guide, and what I see here is what needs to come off. Again, a great way to get all the underneath hair off with a client that doesn't want to undercut it. Watch how that length will come right back over that. Move it a number of different ways. Working to the front now, seeing if there's anything that wants to come into that front. All right, so we've completed our one length shape. Now what we want to do, just shake your head, keep your head upright. Now what we want to do is we want to start thinking about how we're going to start to attach this back area. Now I want to start to get that shape to do this. Okay, but with fine hair, I have to be very careful how I choose to go in and layer this. If you ever want a bob to have some bevel and roundness, I know a lot of times we pick up a flat iron and our comb and get it nice and smooth and we just start to bevel. Look what Sam has in his hand. I've got the sleeker, the flat iron, and a thermal round brush. Now what I want to do is, all I want to do is just put the hair on the brush and watch me just float the iron. I'm barely going to close it. And if I had you put your finger here, like right now, I feel heat and I haven't even closed the iron. Heat starts to alter the bonds in the hair. So watch the iron, it's just barely going to close on that, watch. So what I'm doing is just creating bevel. That's all I'm doing, just creating bevel. Very softly. And then I'm using the brush, okay, and the iron, because I know that this iron, it gets hot on the outside. So that's all I want to do is now take a look at that. How it has just a slight amount of bevel to it based upon where I've been. So just number one, again, another way to work it differently, and this is a great, easy technique that the client can do. You can see already the difference from one side to the other. So now you can see how we've gone through, we've refined our shape, we went in through working with a flat iron and a round brush. Move your head shoulder to shoulder. And you can just start to see by cross-checking that underneath, you just get a really nice clean line and you're not seeing any of that hair that's underneath there. Now it's time for us to go in and graduate this and layer it. And why I wanted to cut this first is because I wanted to build a guideline that's going to begin from the nape area. Watch what we mean. Let's eliminate our side area, which in this particular case, we're going to go slightly behind the ear, and that will enable us to fill this hole. Okay, we're going to section this off on both sides. So I'm way past that top of the ear. Once again, just filling in right behind that ear. Now we're going to go in and we're going to cut that back area. So we're going to find the natural transition of our nape where the comb comes off just at the top of the ear. So now what we want to do is, this is the hair we're going to cut. This hair. I want to maintain this weight on fine hair. What I don't want to do is start coming in and layering at that nape area. Now watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to come through, divide this in half. I'm going to start on her right side. Why? Because I'm right-handed. So take a look at what I've done in my nape area. Okay? Now I'm going to start my shape. And I'm going to work this all the way up to the crown area, working with the shape of the head. So we're going to work with the shape of the head, but we're going to use that as our guide. So what we're going to do is it's going to give us some layering. What I don't want to do is go back down in here and just start to graduate too much. We're going to start to lose the length and lose the heaviness that we built. So we're using this point here, that's my guide. That's going to ensure from here, we're going to start to round and layer. And then you're going to see how that's going to start to round the bob out. Okay. So here's my nape area. There's my guide. All right, now we're going to go with the shape of the head. And what we want to do now is, all I want to do is, once again, just keep this nice and soft. So in order to keep this nice and soft, so I'm going to switch tools. I'm going to switch to our streamline, and I'm going to switch to the streamline 625. Okay, so what I want to do is the streamline is a smaller handle. So because I'm going to go in a layer, it's just going to give me a little bit softer on my hands in terms of being able to control the shear instead of a bigger handle. So streamline is for those of you that prefer a smaller handle. Streamline is your shear's choice. Vertical section, we know the nape area is going to be my guide. So let's take a look. I'm going to elevate and just cut to the shape of the head. Okay, see where that's at? Okay. So what I want to do is elevate, shape of the head, there went that guide, and now just start to point cut. And what I want to do is keep this soft, and then you'll see, blonde hair is tough to layer, my friends. And it's tough to layer because of the idea of you can see every layered effect to it. So what I want you to do is encourage you, don't cut a blunt line and then try to come back in and soften it. Watch what Sam's doing. I'm notching it, and then I come back, and now I just start to soften that line that I just created by fanning and not going so deep, which is why I changed to a streamline, not as long as a blade. And now I'm going to start to get the softness or the roundness that I'm looking for in that shape. Another pie shape section that is over directed to the center. So let's take a back view of this. Notice how I'm combing everything towards me. So my hand sits in the center. So how do I ensure, Sam, that I don't overcomb this towards me because of the way you're standing? This is the spine of the comb. When the spine of the comb hits that line, that center line, that's when I comb out. That will always ensure me that my hand is in the proper place. If there's any tool that's going to get us in trouble, it is the comb. To the shape of the head. It's going to give her a nice casual sense of volume to it. I'll start to give you a profile, and you can just start to see how this started to change the silhouette already. Pie shaped section, over directed to the center, using the spine of the comb to determine center, and combing straight out, working with the shape of the head. Whatever reaches is what I'm going to take. All right, you can see how we completed this side, and look when I just tickle, you can just start to see how you get a little bit of movement to that, but now you also start to see just the silhouette, how that silhouette is just starting to change, and you're getting a little bit more roundness out of that. That's what I like, just using that nape area as a guide, especially when you're coming through and you're working with fine hair. It's so important. With blonde hair, a lot of times we can see the layered edge. I'm looking at as I play with it. I might switch to a tool just to refreshen some of that when we get to our refining and detail work. Let's go the opposite side, let's drop. And now you can just start to see, let's tickle the heavy side and tickle the movement side. Big difference between the two. We're going to continue to work with pie-shaped partings. Then we're going to go with a pie-shaped parting. I already have a guide, so just lift and you will see it. Okay. Now let's fold and look for it. You can see there it is. There we go, right there. So now I'm in that center. Now we've completed this back area, and you can just see when we just start to tickle and just use our hands to move it, you can just start to see how we're getting a little more movement out of this. And remember how we started very, very fine hair. You can just start to see the silhouette that we're starting to build there. Now we're going to go into the top area, and I want to go into the side areas just slightly. So how are we going to handle this? All right, so let's release. And then I want to go in and get a little bit more of a visual blend in that particular area. So we're going to get a little blend in this area, but I want to leave this. I actually like this little long bit here. But so just the idea of getting that to get a blend, we'll hold on that, and let's go into this top area. In this top area, it's not so much about going in and doing some aggressive layering to it. She's really been through some chemicals, and what's happening is, you can just start to see it's been compromised just slightly. So what I want to do is just go in and just put the strength back into this without coming in and getting so aggressive with my layers. Now, why am I saying that? Because remember, the hairline has jumped up automatically. There's more mass of hair in the back area. So you have to be particularly careful how we're elevating and graduating this side area. So I want you to think very casually. So watch what I'm doing. I'm coming up. I see where the integrity is lost. Now I'm going to bring it down to my black shirt so that you can see, and all I'm doing is just softening this. So with blunt closure of the shear, it's giving us that integrity that we're looking for. Okay, now watch how I'm going to work my way down. Just a diagonal section coming back. That's going to allow me to make this length travel a little further to get back to this. But remember, it's just not about me blending. It's about where do I see it's weak. That's what I'm taking off. If I go too deep with this, meaning that I layer this too aggressively, remember, you're going to just make this front area a little bit more fine in this area. What I'm looking for is just some movement that kind of moves into that side area here. See, you can see I don't want to get too aggressive with this. Just lift up. Look for the integrity. See, that's integrity right there. Let's get rid of this right here. And that's it. Don't get carried away and feel, oh, I got to blend this. You start blending, my friends, I guarantee you're going to take all this weight out away from that front area. Okay? Now watch what I mean. If, let's just, for example, bring this up. If I bring this up, most people might be like this and take this. So if I cut you there, I want you to see what happens. You see what happened? Now you've lost this length and you've rounded out. So when you get in density like this, that's why we encourage you. Isolate this and then come back and marry it in without going in and aggressively layering this area. Let it fill in a little bit. Okay? Look how I'm just taking just a diagonal. Just lifting up, not looking for blending, just looking at the integrity. Okay? So see how that needs strength right there. So blunt closure of a shear will add strength. Soften by deep point cutting. But I'm going slightly on an angle. Why? I want to maintain integrity. Give it a little bit more of a blunt edge. Remember, elevate, just looking for this. Let's bring it down to my shirt so that you can see. So most people would get really deep in this. All I want to do is just soften that. I'm just looking for movements because when the hair moves, if there's any hardness, you're going to see it when it moves. And right now, I'm just really satisfied with where that's at. All right, let's go into this side area now on both sides. Now here the goal is I don't want to go in and blunt this off. I'm actually kind of liking this bit, but it needs, you can see it's lost that right there. So here's what I want to do. Just take it from the back. Just tap, 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 tap. So it's almost like that is there, but let's make sure that we got a blend, a visual blend on that. So you can see how it's just basically dropping off right now. So let's go back through. Okay, let's continue to refine and detail, and let's do it visually and see if we're really satisfied with what we see. So let's just have her shake her head shoulder to shoulder with us, just looking at her. Okay, good. Now there's one thing that's really bothering me, and it's just this detachment, these pieces that we want to kind of get a slight blend to. And I'm just going to go in and just take it off with a blender so I get a soft edge still. So you see I still have a soft edge to that, and look at the difference on that. So let's just visualize that line and see it. Texture shear. Why? You could see what I did with that. So let's just turn. Remember, all I'm doing is, so I'm not thinning the hair, I'm trying to get an scanned edge to it. So some cases I'll just go and use a texture shear, and that way I get that. Okay, let's go through, take a look. I'm just bringing her to the front, seeing where I'm at. Okay, now let's bring this to the front here and just see if there's a little corner of anything to take off here. Now I'm personally liking this in terms of where it's at, just because, you know, the fineness of her hair, and she liked that attachment, but then we talked about it and we both agreed. Let's take that off in the front. That's looking great. Okay, let's just detail and refine this opposite side, and I think we're good to go. Now, you saw how we started with Olga in terms of where her hair was, and I think now, Olga's hair looks twice as thick as it did prior in terms of what we see and how it's working now. So I think sometimes, my friends, even though clients want to have their hair long, it's so important as a professional we help them understand what's going to work best for them. Give them some options. I'm not going to talk a client into anything, but I'm going to give them option A, B, or C. Remember, don't talk them into any look. Give them option A, B, and C based on fabric and based upon the canvas. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to pick up some Wax Blast 10. Think of a spray wax. That's exactly what I have in my hand. A control of 10 times stronger than water, working with a blow dryer. And I want to just go in and just bring back some of that texture. I like doing that because now it gives the hair some texture, gives it a little bit more raw looking. And now just work with our hands. And now look at the sense of volume and a sense of movement that she has in her hair now. And just working with your hands. Sometimes you ever do a haircut in the salon and it makes your day. You know, have you ever done that? And you're like, oh, this haircut, I'm so happy, I'm proud of it. And then you're kind of like following the client and you're clipping things as you get to the front desk. And then all of a sudden you go back to the back room and you're like, that was a beautiful haircut, Sam, how'd you do it? And you're like, I don't have a clue, I just learned it. But I gotta tell you guys, it is fun to really find other ways that you can cut hair that really work for you in terms of behind the chair. Let's give you a profile view. Just start to give you a little back view and then back to the front. So now let's recap the haircut. What we did was we started out with one length hair, thinking of a one length bob. We divided 4 panels in the back area, not just left back, left side and right side. There's a corner that happens there when you're cutting hair. Pay attention to that corner. It tells you where to position your hand when you're working with bobs. We worked with a scanning, working with a 6-inch Signature Series swivel shear, so I could put my hand ergonomically in the proper place. Scan that. Reason we chose to scan that is because we want a pliable edge. As it grows out, it's going to be much easier for her to work with. Once we did that, then what we did was we left out that side area, just the front of that fringe area there. Remember, it was so weak, we didn't want to pick it up at all. We wanted to keep it down low and just clean it up. When we went to the edge at the end, we took off what we had detached and just gave her a little bit of a longer length in the front area, but gave it a little bit more of a visual blend. In the back, how do we start to layer it? I knew I didn't want to do a typical graduated bob underneath. I think it would be taking too much hair underneath or too much length off in the back for her. This is the first time I've cut her hair. Next time, maybe we'll go for it. But what I did was cut that one length. At the nape area, that's where the head transitions. So I highly recommend when you want to leave the weight on fine hair, use that point at the nape, the top, that's your guide. And now just take everything and cut it to the round of the head. And we went in there and we point cutted that. And we were taking pie-shaped sections and over-directing to the center. When we got to the front area, we took diagonal back sections, we lifted them. We were not intentionally blending. We were lifting to see what needed some strength. Those little flyaway hairs, we went in, just took those off, and you still got a little bit of somewhat of a visual blend. I hope you enjoyed watching this, my friends. What's most important at the Stylez app is that they are giving you information that you can use behind the chair. So I really invite you to go to the Stylez app. Go to the app on your phone, pull it out now, press your app, Stylez, S-T-Y-L-E-Z. In there, you're going to find content that's going to support you behind the chair and that's going to support your client relationship with you. I want to thank you so much for your time on behalf of the Stylez app.